My father uninvited me from their anniversary. Then my sister's boyfriend recognized me as CEO. The first thing I do every morning is grind the coffee beans. Not the prepackaged stuff, but the dark Ethiopian blend that fills my tiny kitchen with the scent of blueberries and earth. It's my ritual, the one quiet moment before the world starts demanding things from me. While the water boils, I scroll through tech journals on my phone, skimming articles about neural interfaces and biomechanics. Most people hear San Francisco and think of social media startups or crypto bros. I'm neither. I'm Clara Wu, co-founder of Neuralink, and I build robotic limbs that learn how you move. My apartment is 10 minutes from our office, a sleek space in a converted warehouse south of Market Street. I like the walk, the way the fog rolls in off the bay, the hum of the city waking up. It's predictable, steady, unlike my family. Robert and Linda Wu, my parents, live in a sprawling suburban house outside Chicago, the kind with a manicured lawn and a driveway that's always suspiciously clean. Growing up, that house felt like a stage, and I was the understudy who never got cast. My sister Sophia was the lead, 3 years older, with the kind of effortless charm that made strangers stop her in grocery stores to say, "You should be in movies." And she was beautiful, not in a way I could compete with. Where she had waves of chestnut hair and a laugh like wind chimes, I got Dad's sharp cheekbones and a resting face people call intimidating. Family gatherings were Sophia's spotlight. Thanksgiving? She'd spin stories about her PR clients, some celebrity scandal she'd saved. Christmas? She'd glide in wearing cashmere, handing out engraved gifts while I sat in the corner, nodding as relatives asked, "Clara, you're still doing computers, right?" I'd correct them. Biomedical engineering, actually. But their eyes would already be drifting back to Sophia. What they never saw was the spreadsheet I've kept for 5 years. Line after line of transfers. $200 for Mom's emergency root canal, $450 for Dad's new tires when Sophia forgot to chip in, $3,800 to fix the basement flooding last winter. I didn't mind paying. I minded that they treated it like I was their personal ATM. No thank you. Just a text saying, the insurance didn't cover it. Transfer by Friday? Last month, Mom called about their 30th anniversary party. "Sophia's bringing her new boyfriend," she gushed. "He's a partner at Goldman Sachs." I pictured the backyard, the string lights I'd hung for their 25th, and offered to fly in early. "Bring your famous potato salad," Dad said. It was the closest thing to warmth I'd gotten in years. Then, this morning as I poured my coffee, my phone buzzed. Dad's name flashed. Not a text, a call. That's how I knew it was bad. "Clara," he said, voice flat. "About the party. Don't come." The mug froze halfway to my lips. "What?" "Sophia's boyfriend is flying in. Important people will be there. Your work? It's complicated to explain." A pause. "It's better if you sit this one out." The coffee tasted like ash. Somewhere in Chicago, my parents were erasing me from their celebration. And somewhere in my chest, something I'd been carrying for decades finally snapped. The coffee had gone cold in my hands, the rich aroma turning bitter as the silence stretched between my father and me. I set the mug down carefully, watching the dark liquid ripple, mirroring the tremor in my fingers. His words still hung in the air, sharp and final. "Don't come." "It's not just about the party, is it?" My voice sounded foreign, too calm for the storm building in my chest. On the other end of the line, my father cleared his throat, that familiar sound he always made when avoiding emotional landmines. "Clara, be reasonable. This is an important night for Sophia. Daniel's bringing colleagues from his firm. These are people who move in certain circles. Your work, it's just not something they'd understand over cocktails." I stared at the prototype on my desk, a next-generation neural sensor that could change lives. "You mean it's not impressive enough," I said flatly. "That's not what I said." But we both knew it was exactly what he meant. To them, Sophia's world of PR and high-profile connections was tangible, something to brag about. My work saving lives through medical technology, too complex, too invisible. The call ended with the same quiet dismissal I'd known my entire life. I sat there, the hum of my laptop the only sound in the apartment, and realized something fundamental had shifted. This wasn't just another slight to brush off. This was a line drawn in the sand. I opened my laptop and pulled up my banking app. the screen casting a pale glow on my face in the dim apartment. The transaction history told a story of its own, month after month of financial support they'd come to expect but never acknowledge. Mortgage payments, medical bills, home repairs. All the while, Sophia floated through life on a cloud of admiration, never asked to contribute, never expected to sacrifice. With a few clicks, I canceled every automatic payment. No dramatic flourish, no angry tears. Just the quiet click of a mouse sealing a decision years in the making. The confirmation message popped up. All recurring transfers to Robert and Linda Wu have been discontinued. A strange calm settled over me. Outside, the San Francisco night stretched on, indifferent to my small revolution. Somewhere in Chicago, my parents were probably reviewing the guest list for their precious party, blissfully unaware that the safety net they'd taken for granted had just vanished. I thought about the anniversary gift I'd spent months perfecting, the smartwatch with its custom health monitoring system. It sat wrapped on my dresser, a testament to all the ways I'd tried to prove my worth through usefulness rather than charm. Tomorrow, I'd return it. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd spent my life making me feel invisible, and now, when they needed me most, I finally would be. As I closed my laptop, a notification flashed on my phone. A calendar reminder for the anniversary party I was no longer invited to. I deleted it without hesitation. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of possibility. The day of my parents' anniversary arrived with an eerie quiet. I hadn't slept. Instead, I'd spent the night pacing my apartment, alternating between second-guessing my decision and feeling a grim satisfaction at finally drawing a line. By dawn, I gave up on rest and took my coffee to the balcony, watching the first light creep over San Francisco's skyline. My phone buzzed insistently in my pocket, but I ignored it. I knew who it was. At exactly 11:37 a.m., 3 hours before the party was set to begin, my mother called. I let it go to voicemail. She called again immediately, her persistence unusual. When the third call came through, I answered, bracing myself. "Clara, thank God!" Her voice was shrill, panicked. "The power just went out. The caterers are here. The fridge is warming up. Can you call the electric company? They always listen to you." I closed my eyes, leaning against the balcony railing. Even now, in crisis, there was no apology, no acknowledgement of why I wasn't there. Just another demand. "I can't help you, Mom," I said quietly. "What do you mean you can't—" Her words cut off as another voice came on the line, sharp and imperious. Sophia. "Clara, this isn't funny," she snapped. "The entire house is dark. Dad's trying to light candles, but half the guests are already on their way. You need to fix this now." The entitlement in her tone sparked something deep in my chest. "No, I don't," I said, my voice steady. Silence. Then a flurry of whispers on their end before my mother came back on, her tone pleading. "Sweetheart, please, this is important. Just call them." "I canceled the payments, Mom." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. All of them. Electricity, water, everything. The gasp on the other end was almost comical. "You... what?" Before I could respond, a commotion broke out, shouting, the clatter of something falling. Then, abruptly, the call switched to video. My aunt's face filled the screen, her expression harried. "Clara, honey, I don't know what's going on, but your mother is in hysterics. The toilets won't flush. The sinks are dry. What did you do?" Behind her, I caught glimpses of chaos, my father yelling into his phone, Sophia gesturing wildly at a cluster of confused caterers. The backdrop of their perfectly decorated home, now shrouded in shadow, should have made me feel guilty. Instead, I felt nothing but a cold, quiet resolve. Then, a new voice cut through the noise. "Let me talk to her." The screen tilted as my aunt turned the phone, and suddenly, a man's face filled the frame. Early 30s, sharp suit, the kind of polished good looks that screamed private schools and trust funds. Sophia's boyfriend, Daniel. He squinted at the screen, his expression shifting from frustration to confusion, then to dawning recognition. "Clara Wu?" His voice was different now, almost hesitant. I said nothing, watching as his eyes widened. "You're—" He swallowed, then turned slightly, speaking to someone off-screen. "This is Clara Wu, the Clara Wu, CEO of Neuralink." The effect was instantaneous. The background noise cut off as if someone had hit mute. My father's face appeared over Daniel's shoulder, his mouth slightly open. My mother's hand flew to her chest. Sophia looked like she'd been slapped. Daniel, oblivious to the shock rippling through the room, kept talking, his tone now tinged with something like awe. I just accepted the VP position at Neuralink last week. I had no idea you were... He stopped, finally registering the tension. Wait, you're Sophia's sister? The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. I could see the pieces falling into place for them. The money I'd sent, the job they'd never bothered to ask about, the life I'd built without their notice. My father's face went pale. My mother's lips trembled. And Sophia. Sophia looked at me with something I'd never seen before. Fear. I smiled then, just slightly. Welcome to the team, Daniel. The screen went black as the call disconnected. I set my phone down carefully, my hands steady. Outside, the sun shone brightly over the city, oblivious to the earthquake that had just rocked my family's world. It took less than 5 minutes for my phone to light up again. Texts, calls, a flurry of notifications. I ignored them all. Let them sit in the dark. Let them finally see what happened when they took the invisible daughter for granted. The next call came from an unknown number. I answered out of sheer curiosity. Ms. Wu? A man's voice, professional. This is Mark from the San Francisco Chronicle. We'd love to interview you about Neuralink's breakthrough with prosthetic sensory feedback. Your team's work is changing lives. I leaned back in my chair, watching the golden light spill across my apartment. I'd love to, I said. Somewhere in Chicago, my family was scrambling in the dark. And for the first time in my life, I was exactly where I was meant to be, in the light. The messages started pouring in before I even left my apartment that afternoon. First from my mother, long, rambling voice memos that oscillated between guilt-tripping and outright denial. Then from my father, whose texts read like formal business correspondence gone wrong. We need to discuss this like adults. Your actions have caused significant disruption. Sophia's approach was more direct, a string of furious emoji-laden rants about how I'd humiliated her in front of Danielle. I silenced my phone and went to work. Neuralink's offices were buzzing when I arrived, the usual mid-afternoon energy amplified by news of our latest FDA approval. Daniel, now officially our new VP of Finance, was already there, standing awkwardly near the coffee machine. He straightened when he saw me, his expression caught between professional respect and personal unease. Clara, he began, then hesitated. About yesterday. Let's keep this professional, I said, handing him a coffee. The dark circles under his eyes suggested he'd had his own long night. Your start date's still Monday, yes? He nodded, relief flashing across his face. Sophia and I were done. After what happened, he stopped, shaking his head. I had no idea who you were, who they were. I didn't need the details. The way his mouth twisted around Sophia's name told me everything. My phone buzzed again. Aunt Linda this time. Your parents are at my house. They want to talk. Please call. I waited until 8 p.m. when the office emptied out and the sky turned the deep blue of early evening before I responded. Not to Linda, but directly to my parents. A group video call, no hiding behind separate conversations this time. They appeared on screen looking exhausted. My father's usually immaculate hair was disheveled. My mother's makeup had been cried off. Behind them, I recognized Linda's floral wallpaper. Clara, my father began, then uncharacteristically faltered. The silence stretched. It was my mother who finally broke. We didn't know, she whispered. The words hung there, pathetic in their simplicity. 32 years of my life, $18,000 of my money, countless hours of my labor, and this was their epiphany? We didn't know? Know what, exactly? I kept my voice calm. That I was successful? That I mattered? My father flinched. That's not your company, my mother interrupted. We didn't understand what you did. All those times we asked for money, we thought you were just what? A mediocre programmer with spare cash? I laughed, the sound hollow even to my own ears. You never asked, not once. On screen, my parents exchanged glances, that silent marital language I'd spent my childhood trying to decipher. Now, for the first time, I saw fear in it. Daniel resigned from his firm, my father said abruptly. He told them he's working for you now. Ah, there it was. Not concern for me, but panic over losing access to Daniel's connections. The realization should have hurt. Instead, it felt like slipping into a familiar old coat. Disappointing, but comfortable in its predictability. Sophia's face suddenly appeared over my mother's shoulder, her eyes red-rimmed. "You ruined everything," she spat. I leaned back in my chair, studying my sister's tear-streaked face, the golden child unraveling. "No," I said quietly. "You did that all by yourself." The call devolved after that, shouting, accusations, my aunt trying unsuccessfully to mediate. I let it play out, observing dispassionately until my father dropped the bomb. "We need your help," he admitted, the words clearly painful. "The mortgage. We can't—" Of course, it always circled back to money. I let the silence stretch until it became uncomfortable. Then I laid out my terms, not angrily, but with the same clinical precision I use in investor meetings. If they wanted financial support, they'd sign a contract. Half from Sophia, full transparency on expenses. And the house would become mine when they passed. No arguments. The outrage was instantaneous. Sophia screamed about greed. My father turned purple. My mother sobbed about family loyalty. Through it all, I remained calm. "Those are the terms," I said when they'd exhausted themselves. "Take it or leave it." The call ended with my father slamming his fist on Linda's table, the screen going black mid-tirade. I wasn't worried. They'd call back. The electricity bill was due Monday. As I shut my laptop, a notification popped up, an email from Daniel with the subject line, "FYI, Sophia's threats." Attached were screenshots of my sister promising to expose me to the press. I deleted it without opening. Let her try. The apartment felt different that night. Lighter, as if I'd opened windows I didn't know were closed. I poured a glass of wine and stood on the balcony, watching the city lights flicker to life. Somewhere out there, my family was regrouping, recasting me as the villain in their narrative. For the first time, I found I didn't care. When my phone buzzed one last time, a text from my mother saying, "We'll sign," I didn't respond. I simply set the phone aside and raised my glass to the skyline, to the future, to the quiet understanding that some bridges were better left burned. 6 months later, I stood on the deck of my new home in Sausalito, watching the morning fog roll across the bay. The house, a modern glass and wood structure perched on the hillside, was nothing like my parents' suburban showpiece. No manicured lawn, no spotless driveway. Just wild grasses bending in the salt-kissed wind and a winding path leading down to a private dock. My dock. Inside, the movers were unpacking the last boxes. I'd sold my San Francisco apartment after the Forbes feature, the one that called me the quiet, revolutionary changing neuroprosthetics. The article never mentioned my family. They wouldn't have recognized themselves in it anyway. My phone buzzed on the teak patio table. Another email from Danielle, now my most trusted executive with the quarterly financials. Neuralink's valuation had tripled since the FDA approval. Below his signature, almost as an afterthought, Sophia contacted me again. She's working at a mall boutique now. Asked if we had any PR openings. I deleted the message without replying. A wet nose nudged my hand. Atlas, my rescue greyhound, leaned against my legs, his brindle coat warm in the sunlight. I scratched behind his ears, smiling as his tail thumped against the deck. Walk time? The path down to the water was steep, but familiar. Atlas bounded ahead, his long legs eating up the ground while I took my time, breathing in the pine and eucalyptus. At the dock's edge, I sat, letting my feet dangle above the gentle waves. The bay stretched out before me, endless and open. My phone buzzed again. A calendar notification. Mom and Dad, contract review, 2 p.m. The quarterly check-in, per our agreement. The first few had been tense affairs, my father's jaw clenched as he itemized expenses, my mother's eyes darting away whenever I asked about Sophia. Last time, though, something unexpected happened. My father mentioned a Wall Street Journal article about neural interfaces. He'd actually read it. Atlas rested his head on my knee, whining softly. I checked my watch. 11:47 a.m., plenty of time before the call. "Come on," I said, standing and brushing sand from my jeans. "Let's get lunch." We took the long way back, past the neighbor's olive grove and the little cafe with the blue awning. The owner, Maria, waved as we approached. "Usual, Clara?" I nodded, leaning against the counter while Atlas flopped down in his usual spot. The cafe smelled of rosemary and fresh bread, nothing like the sterile coffee shops near my old office. Maria slid a paper bag across the counter. Added extra biscotti for your handsome friend. Back home, I spread lunch on the deck, prosciutto sandwich for me, dog-friendly biscotti for Atlas, and propped my feet up on the railing. The bay glittered below, dotted with sailboats. My phone sat face down beside me, silent now. At 1:58 p.m., I carried my laptop to the shaded part of the deck and logged into Zoom. My parents appeared on screen instantly, as if they'd been waiting. They looked older. Dad's hair more silver than pepper now, Mom's smile lines deeper, but their shoulders weren't hunched with tension like before. "Clara," Mom said softly, "your house looks beautiful." For the first time in decades, the compliment didn't feel like a preamble to a request. We reviewed the numbers quickly. Mortgage paid, Sophia actually contributing her share last quarter. When the business was done, an awkward silence fell. Dad cleared his throat. That 60-minute segment, the veteran who walked again using your tech, that was something. I studied his face, looking for the usual dismissal, the subtle change of subject. Instead, I saw genuine interest, maybe even pride. "Yeah," I said after a beat, "it was." The call ended with promises to send photos of Mom's new rose bushes. No demands, no guilt, just space. The kind that either grows into something new or stays comfortably empty. As the screen went dark, Atlas nudged my hand, his signal for evening walk time. I clipped on his leash, grabbing a sweater as the coastal breeze picked up. Down at the water's edge, I watched the sunset paint the bay in golds and pinks, the same colors as the sky over Chicago all those years ago when I'd first realized I deserved more. The house lights twinkled on up the hillside, my lights in my home. Not a place I returned to out of obligation, but one I'd built by choice. Atlas leaned against me, warm and steady. Somewhere out there, my parents were probably sitting down to dinner, maybe even mentioning my name without bitterness. And Sophia? She'd find her way, or not. That was no longer my burden to carry. The last of the sunlight glinted off the water as I turned toward home. Not the one I was born into, but the one I'd made, and for the first time in my life, that was more than enough.